Is pain and vicarious misery a good way to thank people? I don't know, but I'm going to go for it. I just passed 10,000 subscribers recently and wanted to say thank you to everyone who supported me along the way. Viewers, subscribers, Patreon patrons and YouTube members, friends and family, people who've bought merch, people who've showed me plants when I visited their country. It's been great getting to share about some of the many fascinating plants that call this world home and the cultures that use them. I've been overwhelmed, in a good way, with all the responses I've been getting on, especially this recent series on plants of the Andes Mountains region. And so I thought, what better way to say thank you to 10,000 subscribers to a plant channel than to answer a bunch of their questions while eating a 10,000 Scoville pepper. Now, to some of you, that might not actually sound that hot, and in the grand scale of hot peppers, this here, the Serrano, is on the mild end, though hotter than jalapenos at least. But if you want to see me eat a 50,000 Scoville pepper, 50,000 subscribers, 100,000 Scoville, you get the idea. This is quite the commitment, and there is some regret within me right now, but boy, what am I doing? I like to spice my food, but I rarely eat hot peppers straight. But here it goes, I guess. Here's saying thank you. If you're getting really loud mouth noises, try turning down YouTube's stable volume feature. It turns the loud parts quiet, and vice versa, which means it turns chewing loud. If that's not the problem, my apologies. I was worried about the hiccups. I shouldn't have tried inhaling just there. Oh boy. A chunk almost went down the wrong tube. There. Okay, well. Shall we get to the questions? Okay. One more moment, actually. Oh boy, this doesn't bode well for the hotter peppers. What am I getting myself into? I'm just going to move this Inca peanut here. In case you don't like to see this kind of misery, I'll just put a timestamp when I actually start answering the first question. Well, if I wasn't awake, I'm awake now. I didn't take caffeine because I thought this might wake me up a bit. My infant son woke me up at 4:50 a.m. this morning, singing. So I'm a bit behind on sleep, but this is rousing, so... Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it's starting to get in its manageable range. Still gonna wait a while before I drink water, because that'll just make it worse at this point. Okay. First comment. This person says, this is on my video on Andean root vegetables. I'm curious if maca could be grown in the tundra by the Inuit. That's a good line of thinking there. For anyone who hasn't seen the video, maca is a vegetable that grows in the tundra in the high mountains of the Andes there. My first thought is probably not, unfortunately, because the tundra in the high mountains is in some seasons quite similar to the tundra high up north, in the Canadian North or Russian North, wherever you're looking. The problem is the far north tundra is a lot more seasonal. So if I remember correctly, maca can take a lot of cold temperatures, but it also needs a really long season where days are at least above freezing. If I remember correctly, it's over 250 days. Now, maybe there's varieties, if you look further south, that are more tolerant of shorter seasons. But I checked for, Iqaluit up in Nunavut here in Canada, which is pretty far north. But their growing season at maximum is apparently like 60 days. So unfortunately, probably not. But crops that the Inuit could grow, that is an interesting subject. That it'd be fun to look into that. Yeah. Okay, next one. Okay, yeah. So careful how you inhale. Okay, I did get a lot of comments on that one, reacting to the fact that to me, maca and lucuma tasted a bit like cigarettes. Now, maca, there were actually a fair number of people that agreed with me on that. Plenty that didn't as well. Lucuma, almost no one agreed with me. So, but I got a lot of people suggesting why they might have tasted that way to me. So some people here suggested maybe it was a processing issue, like maybe these were dried over a fire, the ones I tasted. Now, that could be. The one thing that makes me doubt that is that I had maca in Peru, but also back here in Canada. I believe it was Bulk Barn that used to have it. And wherever it was, when I smelled it there, it smelled equally like cigarettes to me. So I'm guessing Bulk Barn or whoever it was, excuse the spicy burps here. Whoever it was, would have guessed they would have had a bit higher quality control for that sort of thing. So probably not, but possible. Lucuma, it's possible, but I doubt it there too because I tried it in so many different forms and it always tasted like that to me. I think it was 4 different forms. I tried it straight, I tried it in ice creams, I tried it in puddings, and then I did try it also frozen as like frozen pulp back here in Canada. And it always tasted like that to me. One of them maybe verged a bit more towards like burnt sweet potato, but still that kind of smoky edge to it. So I don't think it's just a processing or storage problem. Some people compared it to mate. I have tried mate before. To me, it never tasted like cigarettes, but I did look that one up, and apparently, oh, sorry, ears getting plugged here with the spicy congestion. Yeah, apparently mate is often processed by fire drying it, so there it makes sense that often it'll get a smoky flavor. I guess the ones I've tasted just were dried in a different way. Some here suggested it was a genetic thing, like the whole cilantro soap versus citrus thing, and I do have the soapy gene for cilantro. Once said I was the only person in the world with the everything tastes like cigarettes gene. Fortunately, that's not true. I can't, off the top of my head, think of anything else to me that tastes like cigarettes other than these two things. So it's possible for something specific in these vegetables, or fruits, but Not sure. It's possible. Some here suggested it was maybe effect of COVID. That one, for lucuma, it could be because I only ever tried it after kind of COVID times. But the problem is I've never noticed that with any other foods, as I mentioned. And maca, when I tried it at Bulk Barn or wherever it was, that was well before COVID times. So for that one, it's not. Some people suggested it's because maybe these plants are related to the tobacco plant. That wouldn't be the case. Lucuma is in the Sapodilla family, maca is in the cabbage family, and tobacco is in the tomato family. So it could be that there's a similar chemical in them, but again, most people don't taste it with lucuma. But for maca, maybe. I haven't really looked into that. But that's possible. Oh yeah, and here's some people just agreeing with me that maca at least tastes kind of odd to them. So, oh yeah, tastes like a cigarette smoker's clothes smell, or very earthy and musty like grandma's house. It's like hints of sweetness like fenugreek and wet dog. I don't know if I can see that one, but oh yeah, and someone disagreeing with me on lucuma there. And I did actually find one person who agreed with me on lucuma here, so I'm not the only one. Yeah, the most plausible theory is genetics to me. Then maybe I just get some weird genetics for something that's in these two flavors. Potato, yes. Thank you for that. Good point. Okay, here's some that were from my video on familiar Andean vegetables. So things that come from the Andes, but these are unusual forms that you don't know. I'm going to link all of these videos just in the whichever top corner it comes in as they come up. This guy says, I love this channel. I'm not going to read entire comments all the time, but this kind of gives me a vibe of Weird Explorer crossed with Adam Ragusa. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce his name, which I mean as a huge compliment, as they are two favorites. Yeah, I take that as a huge compliment. I enjoy the videos of both of those guys as well. I feel like you and Weird Explorer could do a cool collab if that's up your alley. Yeah, I would enjoy that. I think that'd be fun. Weird Explorer, he's actually one of the YouTubers that kind of inspired me to first start a YouTube channel, which may not come as a surprise to some of you. I think before I started, when I thought of like a YouTuber or a TV presenter or something like that, I would usually think of someone with very kind of loud, bold, sort of a loud charisma, and sort of a like not in a bad way necessarily, because like I grew up a big fan of Steve Irwin, and like he's got explosive enthusiasm, that guy, which I cannot match. But finding Weird Explorer, and well, first off, obviously his mission to taste every fruit in the world, that was something that fascinated me. But also I appreciated his calm, collected demeanor in his presentation style, which is a lot more close to home in how I present myself and what comes natural to me. And the fact that he was more like me in this way, and other people also seemed to enjoy watching him. It wasn't just me enjoying. So that inspired me to go, okay, well, if other people also enjoy listening to him talk about these things, maybe they would enjoy hearing me talk about plants that I'm interested in. So yeah, that's keep that boy. The spiciness is getting a lot lower now. Congestion may stay for a bit. But yeah, that's part of. Oh yeah, funny. I actually just recently got a comment from one of his friends that's been in some of his videos, Steven, and I've had in my head for, not that I have to have anything up on Weird Explorer or anything like that, but just, thinking on, okay, are there any fruits that I've tried that Weird Explorer hasn't tried. And I could only think of two that I was almost certain that he hasn't tried. And just a week or two ago, he released a video tasting one of them, the Marita. Go check that out. It's a good video. It's with him and Steven. And then Steven just commented on my video of the other one. So, and saying, "Ooh, I haven't tried this pandanus fruit. I'll have to try this soon. So maybe I won't have any. Not that I need any. And, you know, good chance that there's some small wild Canadian fruit that I've tried that he hasn't. But yeah, anyway, I enjoy Weird Explorer. Yeah. Okay. This guy says, why do no historians or archaeologists ever think goofy looking things were made because it was funny to the people of the time? And then, yeah, we, lots of things about, we have memes. It's always evolving, sometimes niche and regional, differs by website, but everyone on the internet memes. Why do we think the people of the past were so much less inclined to have a good time? This is a fair question. He's probably referring here, I'm pretty sure he's referring to the, I show the Moche have a lot of good art, the Moche people. And I show some bean warriors in there. There's lima beans kitted out with like weapons and shields and armor. And yeah, so they look kind of goofy to, well, to me and to a lot of people. They're fun looking characters. Now, this is a good question. And if there's any historians or ethnographers here who can answer this better in the comments, please go for it. What I would say, historians definitely do acknowledge that people of the past had senses of humor. That is not disputed. Does it often get missed or misinterpreted? That could very well be. Mistaking silly for serious and vice versa. I mean, the big problem is, especially where the specific people group isn't around anymore to talk to, humor can have a lot of really culturally dependent elements. So things like maybe they connect to folk stories, or maybe it's language, like maybe there's something like a visual pun going on that we would have no idea just looking at it, not speaking their language. And on the flip side too, things that to us look goofy may not have looked goofy to them. Because, well, okay, take for instance, some of the creatures you sometimes see in art of various cultures that maybe to us does look humorous, but okay, now picture encountering that thing alone wandering the desert or lurking at night, and suddenly maybe it's quite terrifying actually. And so there could be a lot of things like that. So these bean warriors here, they do look humorous. I agree. It's been a while since I was reading about this, but if I remember correctly, some of the contexts they were used in definitely look like serious context. So I believe was it in burials sometimes, or also depictions of them bringing people's offerings to the gods and things like that. So could they be used in both silly and serious contexts? That's possible. That's definitely possible. And some mythologies do, actually lots of mythologies do also have like little, what do you call it? Trickster sort of characters that can be humorous in a sacred context. So yeah, historians do acknowledge people of the past had humor, but it's not always easy for us to tell today what is meant as humorous or serious. And curious if anyone else can chime in on that. So good question though. They truly were connoisseurs. Yes. The Inca were nothing if not connoisseurs. I agree. Yes. Okay, yeah, here I had some people giving suggestions for other videos. This is from a variety of videos, not just this one, but this guy describes himself as quite the fan. I am honored. He suggests that if there were no Ambling with Sam fans, it would be because he was dead. That's I am honored. I am honored, sir. Now, yeah, he says, can you do some videos on North African edible plants? There's a few strange ones I've had the joy of sampling. I'm curious which ones you're thinking of there. Most of the ones that immediately spring to mind of North African plants are ones that are also kind of cultivated around the Mediterranean or other parts of the Middle East. And maybe those are some of the ones you're thinking of too. That could be. But I'm sure there's also a lot of local cultivated or wild or semi-wild foraged ones. So yeah, no, I'm curious. That would be an interesting region. Yeah, I'm thinking like Egypt, looking at some of the historical agriculture there. That could be interesting. And other parts. There's a lot of interesting stuff in Africa. Oh yeah, and this other guy mentions there's a huge amount of indigenous crops around the world that should be more widely spread and appreciated. I agree. I would love for you to create some videos about the various regions in Africa and their indigenous crops. That, yeah. In connection with that other guy there, that sounds like a fascinating thing to do. Also an expensive thing to do if I wanted to film anything on location, which you'd probably need a lot of locations. But yeah, boy, if I could find a sponsor to help me with that, I would be down for that. There's a ton of stuff that grows in Africa that's been growing long into the past that it hasn't really spread at all. And yeah, lots of staples, spices too. There's a spice store near me that it has a little section where it's got African spices specifically. Some of them are medicinal, some of them are spices, but it's hard to tell because a lot of them, when you Google the names, there's almost nothing that comes up. And so it's kind of this, it's not a blank area in my knowledge, but it's very hazy. And so I'd love to explore that more. Yeah. Can you make an episode about Chilean plants? Yeah. Yeah. I take it you mean not just the Andean plants I'm talking about, but yeah, southern Chile is quite interesting too, where it starts to turn into more temperate zones going south. I'm kind of fascinated by the idea of we have boreal forests up in the north here, but what would the southern equivalent be? And we don't quite have that because there's not a big enough landmass to get quite this equivalent climate down there, but you might kind of see a bit of a glimpse into what it might be in some of those southern temperate forests. So yeah, that does sound interesting. And especially, yeah, the Nothofagus trees. Those I find interesting. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I agree. One says, do one for Bangladesh and ancient Bengal. The vegetable and fruits in the region is very diverse due to one of the most fertile soils in the world. That's an area I don't know as much about, thinking Bangladesh as opposed to India. I don't know as much distinctives there, so I'd have to look into that. But I do know, though, they have the, what do they call it? I forget the local name for it, but the floating gardens. Those, yeah, I'd love to look at those. There's so many things I'd love to look at. A separate video about culinary herbs and spices that are unknown to Asia. I may actually have something coming on a little bit of that. Anyway, yeah, stay tuned in some of the next videos. We'll see. But that's, as I mentioned with Africa, there's a lot from Africa, from the New World. I'm sure you can find some stuff in Europe too that isn't really spread over there too. Maybe more local wild stuff. But the Andes videos was great. One day you should check out Australian native plants. Okay, I'm repeating myself at this point. Yes, that would be fascinating. I was talking to an Australian guy a little while back who he said, what was it? I told him I'd like to one day go there and explore Australian plants. I think he was thinking more in the context of bush tucker, I think, and that sort of plants, cultivated edible plants. It's not just that, and he was, no, it's not nearly as interesting as you'd expect. I have heard from some people that, yeah, Australian bush tucker, a lot of it's not actually that great eating, but I don't know. That underestimates my ability to get excited about bland vegetables. No matter how bland it is, I'm still interested. You can't stop me there. And this one suggests doing one on available tubers, as there are many interesting ones on the prairies. Now, that's a good point. Excuse me, another pepper burp there. Yeah, okay. I had another one suggesting specifically American groundnut. Unfortunately, that one's a bit too far south. I think it's just kind of southern Ontario. so not most of Canada. But yeah, there are a few interesting ones. I've actually tried to make a few before, but I was just never quite in the right place at the right time. Prairie turnip, I would love to do. Drew some artichokes. I do grow those in my garden. They came up a little bit in one of my videos here, but and I know I also had some people suggesting the Khmer Empire. That would be interesting. They don't get talked about much. Also more in Papua New Guinea. So many fascinating things. Anyway. Okay, yes. This one here. This video is too much you focused. I want to see more of the vegetables, not stare at you talking. Well, okay. That right there, that is a sentiment I can get behind. I am fully on board with that. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I am editing these videos, I get awfully tired of seeing my own face. Like, I wish I could just spend more time staring at vegetables. But to whatever your name is, there's actually a way you can help. See, here's the thing. I would love to make more videos like that big documentary on Andean agriculture. But the thing is, those types of videos take a lot of work and a lot of resources. Mainly time, especially because at this point, I don't have the budget to travel more. Or to use professional stock images or footage or things like that. And freely usable images of some of these plants are pretty hard to come by online. So to do more of these sorts of videos, I need either the ability to take more photos and videos, potentially having to travel for that. I need more time to be able to edit, less time having to work a day job instead, and maybe sometimes funds to buy photos and videos to use now and again. Or I would need to release a lot less often. But if you'd like to help me make this into my job, you can support me on Patreon or YouTube memberships. I've started putting together a little bit of bonus behind the scenes content for some of the tiers there. I mean, unfortunately, those do also contain a bit of my face as well. But I do also have a merch store, which has a donate link as well if you want that. A couple of my videos have Amazon affiliate links, which help me in a small way. So if you'd like to see more vegetables and less of me, you can help make that a reality. So anyway, do you get to point? Eventually, I typically do, yes. I do get to point. Oh yeah, this one. The Andeans may not have had the most impressive engineering feats in the world, but they were easily the best agricultural scientists of the pre-industrial age. Now, I don't know enough about their other engineering or a bunch of different other cultures' engineering to confirm or deny this comparison. But one thing I will say, there is some engineering they did that is not agricultural that is also really impressive. I did not mention that video, their stonework. Those guys knew how to cut stone. So if you look especially at like late Inca, some of the fancier stonework there, it's kind of like almost like a jigsaw puzzle of stones where you'll have like not typical like what we think of jigsaw pieces, but just perfectly fit together. Like you can barely even fit a knife between the bricks, all kinds of weird shapes. And even within, they have these little interlocking like rods and sockets. And so apparently what the advantage of that is in a place like that, if you were to use, say, brick and mortar, it's very earthquake prone there. So chances are a bad enough earthquake will just rattle that stuff, break the mortar, and your building will come crumbling down. Something like this, it can just kind of rattle in place and then settle back down. And so it's very good against earthquakes. So that is pretty impressive. That is, yeah. Oh, also their rope bridges. Those are impressive too. So they did at least have some other really impressive engineering. Potato Bland. Sure, Tismo. Dan Quayle, is that you? What did Tismo mean again? Oh, yeah, okay. Autistic. So, wait. Is he saying he thinks I'm on the autism spectrum and addressing me under that assumption? Or is he using it as a generic slur? Sorry, I'll need clarification on that. I have trouble interpreting tone on stuff like that. Okay, and here's on my Christmas tree taste test. This is a fun video to make. I'm not going to read this whole comment, obviously, but it's quite a long one. But this guy's got a lot of good information on eating coniferous trees in various ways. I am definitely going to have to try some of these. For that video, we just tasted tea of a lot of the trees, and obviously flavors may vary if you take other parts of the plant, as he kind of points out here. But yeah, now that we have that baseline, it'd be fun to do something a little more experimental like this, more in depth with the cooking side. Okay, yeah. Okay, AI. So since that big documentary, I've been getting semi-regular comments asking if I'm using AI or if I'm AI, if the voice over is AI. So I thought this is a good place to just be fully transparent on where I may or may not be using AI. So I guess, well, first off, as to why they're asking this, I think some of them, at least one of them, came back and said afterwards, oh, never mind, it's not AI. The guy just writes well. So others said it was because the voiceover had some weird lag. So I don't know if maybe there was some Bluetooth speaker lag going on there or some weird EQ adjustments. I know YouTube does also have an auto dub feature where the AI generate translations. So I don't know if there's I disabled that for my channel, but maybe there's a glitch happening. I've heard a lot of complaints. That's why I disabled it. It could be because I use M dashes in my subtitles sometimes. I don't know. I do actually just write with M dashes. But it also wouldn't be the first time I've been told I have a bit of a robotic way of speaking. So, oh yeah, one of them said it sounded unnaturally bassy. So that could be an EQ thing. It could just be my voice. So I'm not the most natural in my mannerisms. So, okay. So to be transparent, where am I not using AI? I'm not using it in my writing or rewriting anything I have written. I'm not using it in my voice work, and I'm not using it in my footage or my images, with the one exception, if it was something like, I haven't done this one, but like just, an arrow pointing at something or something circled or something like that, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with. Or the one time I have used it was back in my absinthe video, where I couldn't find a clip art of just a shot glass, a little cartoon one. So I generated that and still had to modify it in the end, actually, but used that there. So I don't want to use it though to pretend as if I'm showing something real. If it's used in a documentary sense, I don't want to do it because that reduces credibility. So if it's just something small and insignificant, if it's something that was maybe very obviously meant as a joke, that would be one thing. I'd still be very, very careful though. So where have I been using it? Well, recently I have started using it as a search engine because I've been finding Google search just getting worse and worse. Unfortunately, it's getting a strong tendency to not search for the keywords that I'm searching for, but instead kind of generalize the keywords and then search for that instead. So AI at the moment is unfortunately better than general Google search. Other searches for specific things like Google Scholar are still better. But another place I'm not using it, I am not using AI as an information source. And that to me is the most crucial one. I know there are a lot of people who trust AI as an information source a lot more than I do. I have found it just dreadfully unreliable when it comes to actually giving facts. Like when I use it as a search engine, it'll often spit out just summaries of all the sources and, a summary of its thoughts on the sources. And I've had so many times where it either says something that a source says, and then I look in the source and it's not in there at all. Or it says it, but it's about an entirely different plant. Or it just has a quote from the source and that quote's not in there. It's just made up. Or it'll, list out, I've used it a couple times as like, just, okay, what are some plants in this area that might be of interest? And just, to go from there and then actually read up on those things. It makes up plants all the time. I've actually had it make up sources and links themselves. So linking to fake pages. So yeah, I might be, call me an old curmudgeon. Maybe someday it'll be reliable, but that isn't today. So I'm trying to optimize my videos. You have to find some balance between quantity and quality, but I really want to lean onto the quality side as much as I can. And that means I want them to be trustworthy, and then I got to use trustworthy sources. So I could ramble on for this one for quite a while, but I'll save you that. Oh, one other place I don't use AI. YouTube offers creators the opportunity or the option to respond to comments with AI generated responses of their own. So I don't do that. Okay, here's an example. You can see there's the comment, and then right below it there's the suggested auto response, and it's got a couple I could scroll through. So I don't do that. I know there's bots within the comments. That's unfortunately just how things are these days, but I want to assume the comments come from a human, and I want to respond to them as a human. So yeah, that's my AI policy at the moment. Anyway. Okay, the Tree of Burning Gemstones. That was a fun video. I was cleaning soot marks out of my office for weeks after that, though. When I burned the resin, it was, you'd get these little black wisps coming up and floating all around. And when they landed, they would leave a little greasy black mark. So if I ever do anything like that, I'll probably do it more contained or do it outside. So this person says and this is about the fruit, not the resin, but it's good stuff, like banana plus banana bread as powder that was left in a refrigerator with lots of aged cheese or in a box with used socks. I can see that. I think I would stick by my my description closer to jackfruit, but yeah, no, I could see that approximately, and I'm sure it varies a bit from fruit to fruit. Okay. Oh. Noni fruit. Starting off with noni is the worst. I don't know if it's actually the worst thing I've tasted. But boy, it was awful. It was awful. Yeah. Like I can see how it could be an acquired toe jam and vomit. The got milk of noni would be noni. It's bad every time. Honestly, it's like someone boiled all the flavor out of a sock inside an unwashed sock. Out of a potato inside an unwashed sock. I don't know if I agree on the specifics of that, but the overall thrust of that, absolutely agree. Yeah, that was nasty. The one thing I never actually shared in that video, though, because it came afterwards, was after I tasted it. I haven't heard of this otherwise, so I don't know if this is usually a thing, but for weeks afterwards, my clothes smelled like noni. I didn't get it on my clothes, but I don't know if it came through my body odor or what exactly. And we didn't have a washing machine there. We were just washing our clothes in a stream in the jungle in Costa Rica there. But yeah, that was nasty. I'm not trying that again without a proper washing machine. Okay, this person says, in Trinidad, we make a punch with milk, and once done right, it's absolutely delicious. I want to say I'll take your word for it. But there is that bit of fatal curiosity within me that wants to know, because there are places where it's treated as a staple, and yeah, okay, maybe there is a way to do it right. I have so much trouble visualizing what that would taste like and be good. But maybe it's possible. Um, I'll get you to prepare it though, or someone who knows what they're doing. I'm not going to try that myself. Oh, yeah. Okay, boy. The things I do for science sometimes. If you can get me down to Trinidad, I will try it. If you know how to make it. Yeah, that would be an interesting place to visit. Okay, here are from my video on Andean root vegetables. Did I announce here? Yeah, anyway. Okay. Oh, yeah, no, sorry. This is just, I continued from above. This is more of them. Okay, yeah. So I had a few. Okay, so I said in the video that Kiwis renamed New Zealand yams, and I attributed that to marketing. Now, I got a lot of backlash from the Kiwi community, and I got more here. And I think I have to apologize to the nation of New Zealand for impugning the character of your citizens, and I hope this will not bar me from one day seeing your beautiful land. Now, that said, I'm not certain that I was completely wrong. Partially, I definitely left something out, at least in what I said. So here's what I know. In New Zealand, traditionally they've been called yams, not New Zealand yams. I left that part out. So that's on me. They've been there since, I think it was the 1850s. And so they've been called yams for a while. And it was when I read The Lost Crops of the Inca, that was the source that said that New Zealand had named them New Zealand yams. Now, I tried to find other sources to confirm or deny that. I couldn't find anything else saying one way or the other as to who gave it that name. I did check a bunch of New Zealand government websites, a bunch of New Zealand garden center websites and stuff like that. A lot of them do use New Zealand yam. Now, is that where did that come about? Also old New Zealand newspapers. I found those going at least back to the 1930s. But were they the first to call it that? And if they did, I'm less convinced now that it was because of marketing. You got me there. The scenario I imagine seems most likely, and this could go either way, is that, well, they've been calling them yams for quite a while. But then maybe when they're talking to, say, Australians or someone from another country, and they mention yams, and the person's like, wait, yams, like these things over here? And they're like, oh, no, these yams, like these things here. And they're like, oh, that's not what we know as yams. Oh, okay, well then, New Zealand yams. Just to clarify, not what you mean by yams, they're New Zealand yams. Now, it could be either person who starts calling them that first, whether it's Australians or whoever it is, saying, oh yeah, the things that New Zealanders call yams, those are New Zealand yams. So, who started saying it first? I'm not sure. It seems to be now maybe there's some marketing, but also just international clarity and recognition going on. So, yes, my apologies to the Kiwis there. Yes. So, anyway, this one says, Way toy wordy, get you a word editor who will take about 2/3 of your words out. The major reason people do not watch a video very far into it is because the person is saying the same thing over and over, or just using too many adverbs and adjectives. After you have done your skipped, have someone who has a degree in dessing do so, then you will have a vid that is shorty and to the point. What poop will watch and not get doored. Wait. Has the poop been getting doored? Have I doored the poop? Have I been dooring the poop this whole time and nobody told me? Man. Oh, okay. Shoot. I should write gotta respond to this guy. Okay, well, oh, shoot. Okay, please accept my sincere apologies. It was never my intention to door the poop. Okay, yeah. Well, shoot. Oh, what can you do? Well, make mistakes. Okay, this guy says, Canadians make me sick. It's like an entire country of castrati. Oh, okay. You stopped at 27:38. No, a little later afterwards, I mentioned actually I've had a child, so that precludes me from being a castrato. I mean, I can explain how that works if you need, but you might want to get that looked at though. I mean, okay, yeah. To be fair, other Canadians also sometimes make me sick, but if it's happening often, you might want to get that checked out. Might be an immune system thing. Might want to talk to a doctor about that. So, all the best though. He's got the nerds. I'm not doing any outtakes for this. He's got the roots nerds crave. I like that. This is very interesting. Can you provide some information about your educational and work experience under About so we know more about your expertise? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's another place where it's good to be transparent. So, okay. Yes. My qualifications as a plant nerd. Yeah. No. It's a fair question. So, it would be a bit of an odd and unimpressive list. To be totally transparent, I am a plant enthusiast. I've worked a little bit in nature education, and plants have been a lifelong passion for me. But I don't have a formal degree in these areas. My bachelor's degree is actually in music, and I did do a few additional semesters of coursework, hoping to qualify for getting into a master's in plant science or maybe ethnobotany. But after a few of those semesters, I took a semester off, then COVID hit, then burnout, and then life circumstances. I had a baby, and I just haven't been back to school since. I'm still considering going back to school at some point to pursue that, but in the meantime, I'm trying to make these videos, make sure for these videos I'm reading reliable sources. I'm not just making stuff up myself. I'm getting it from books by good authors, peer-reviewed articles, sometimes historical documents like primary sources themselves, talking to people who know a lot about the subject, whether it's foraging or a part of history or things like that. And I also try to be open to correction when I make mistakes, as like some of the things in this that I'm answering in this video. But yeah, okay, for instance, the Andean agriculture video. How much did I end up reading for that? It was several months of just reading books from scholars in the fields and making note. Of course, I was also working a job at the same time. My channel wasn't even monetized at that point, so it wasn't full-time research or anything. And of course, not that reading lots inherently makes it reliable. I could be reading crackpots that whole time. That's true. So that's not much of an evidence, but yeah, I'd have to give specific sources to actually make that mean anything. So if you were asking me about my qualifications, because you were looking to invite me to speak at an ethnobotanical conference, I'm probably not qualified at present. I mean, if all you need is a botanical hype man, I mean, dang, I can do that if in a sedate sort of a way. But yeah, anyway, I am a plant enthusiast, not a botanist. But I enjoy learning about these topics and sharing what I've learned, and it's been great to be able to do that through these videos. So, yeah. Greetings, Ambling with Sam. Greetings, Timmy. I love something as benign as plant history being narrated by someone with a villain's voice. I don't hear that one often. A villain's voice. I mean, I can do more of a villain's voice.
There's a certain grandeur and wild beauty to the Andes.
No, what does a villain version of Ambling with Sam sound like? Or Ambling Sam? That sounds more like a name. Welcome to my greenhouse. I am the man who moseys in the meadows, wanders in the woodlands. They call me the potato masher, the purslane snatcher. They call me Ambling Sam. No, that's my villain identity. Shh, don't tell anyone. Okay, this one says this is for my one of my other Peruvian or Andean vegetables. I use Peruvian in the title, but I know it's more broad. It's partly just got to strike that balance between recognizability and things that people will click on. So, and Peru is the part that I've been to. Well, I've been to Ecuador too, but this guy says, I have grown kaigua / achocha successfully several times in Oslo, southern Norway. Oh yeah, okay. That's they're decorative also and will set plenty of fruit even in chill weather. That is good to know. Because that was my worry, was that maybe they wouldn't with the long days. Now, I guess, okay, Norway. So it doesn't necessarily tell me they'll grow here where I am in southern Manitoba. It's sometimes easy to forget. Like, people think of Canada as the Great White North, but actually a lot of the population is, even if you ignore southern Ontario here, a lot of the population is fairly far south. Like, it's all kind of down here. Edmonton is, I don't think there's any real major cities north of Edmonton, at least to the same size as Edmonton. And so that actually only puts you roughly on a level with the Czech Republic here, the fatherland. And the thing though, yeah, okay, so how far north is Oslo? It's, okay, 59, almost 60 degrees north. So that's like 10 degrees north of where I am. So, okay, yeah, long days you got there. I guess, I don't know, are your winter, I think your winters there though are more mild than we've got in the Canadian prairies. Like, as far as I know, I think it's the kind of the moderating effect of the oceans and some of the, just the prevailing air currents too, that keep the climate, the winters in a lot of Europe a lot milder than the Canadian prairies, whereas you get them more on the Canadian coasts, but not inland there. So I've checked before, and actually our table of like average temperatures, average highs, average lows, and everything, a lot more closely matches. It was Irkutsk here in Siberia. So that depends. Yeah, are they starting to flower? Are they starting to flower and fruit once the weather starts to get cooler? Because if so, they might still not grow here. If not, if they're starting early, that's a good sign. I'll have to try it. All plants are toxic. Don't eat plants. I can't stop now. I'm in too deep. I'm sorry, Hermestris Majestus. I appreciate the warning, but even you can't save me from myself. So I'm sorry. Okay, this is the Islands in the Sky video. This was a fun one to make. Took a long time, but this is my first big documentary, and it was actually the one that got my channel monetized as well. And this guy says this is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. None of the hype. Just yeah, thank you. It has opened my eyes to a culture that has been overly neglected in my education. Thanks. That I really appreciate that. Like, I think that is one of the things that just in general with my channel, I want to help with, because I know there's so many things about the natural world that it's easy to just be kind of blind to, like for so many people, and it's through no fault of their own. When you look out at a field of like a grassy area, what do you often see? It's often just grass and weeds at best. That's, or like looking at a forest, you see trees and you see kind of shrubby and understory stuff. And I remember when this is how I saw the world. So, but the more you learn about what's there, the more richness you start to see in everything here. And I think the same goes for other subjects as well. Like at the different cultures all around the world. This is, I know the Inca, they get taught about, at least here in the Manitoba curriculum, but they don't get nearly as much attention and as much time spent on them as some of the other ones that are closer to home culturally for us, like the like Greece and Rome, or I mean, even Egypt. But there's a lot of fascinating stuff there. So I don't know. I like being able to open eyes. I like being able to open people's eyes to things they wouldn't have thought to look for. So yeah, I appreciate that comment. Okay. This person says, really? You're positive they had no influences from other cultures, previous cultures? What an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. Did you ask them that yourself? And then he says, I appear youthful, which as a man approaching 30, I appreciate that. Thanks. You lost me at Cradle of Civilization. The cultures of South America all share foundational myths. South American Indians did not invent civilization in a vacuum. I fully agree. So that's not actually what I'm saying in that part of the video. There is sometimes like the word civilization, I know, can be kind of a loaded word sometimes. What I'm meaning in that sense, when it's referred to as a cradle of civilization, it's not about culture. Civilization is not meant synonymous with culture. So it's talking about these large organized societies. And so absolutely, the people in these cradles of civilizations, they had lots of shared cultural, societal structures, and at least on a small scale, lots of foundational myths, as you say, language, all sorts of things like that. But the idea is that they didn't have a large, organized society with monumental architecture and these kind of hallmarks of a large civilization. They didn't have these to look back on in the past for them, like in their area. So they weren't given a blueprint for that sort of civilization is basically what it means. So yeah, absolutely. Shared culture, definitely. That's not what I'm referring to though. Okay. Playing Tibetan flute music for South American ancient history. LMAOOOO. So I don't actually know that much about Tibetan flute music, but this one, assuming it was labeled correctly where I found the music online, and I assume it was because to me it sounds about right. This was actually an Andean flute called the Quine. Oh, I can actually show it here. So I don't know if this one is a good one necessarily. It might just be a tourist one because I can't play it. I can barely make a sound on it, and that's my own fault. That could be my own fault. That could be the instrument's fault. But yeah, this here is a Quine, that instrument you're likely hearing, and it's a type of end blown flute. So as opposed to like a transverse flute, like you're probably used to seeing in orchestral settings, this one you blow through the end here. So I can try to make a toot on it. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the sound, though often play a bit more in the higher range, which is harder for me to hit. And I do have an Ecuadorian friend who knows how to play Quine, so I'm going to show this to him and see what he says about its quality. But yeah, that is, I really like those instruments. I wish I could play this thing better. Yeah, they got some other good flutes too, though. Actually, there's another one that I also really like called the Quinacho, which is like this, but much bigger. So similar sort of sound, but a much deeper, more resonant, lower one as well. So yeah, anyway. Fun stuff. Fish is best food. I partially agree. I might qualify that and say fish is amongst best food, along with plants. Otherwise, yeah. I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but I got super hyped in the first 30 seconds to fall asleep to this video playing. Well, I'll choose to take it as a compliment. So, yeah, I'll go with that. I'm squeezing mashed potatoes from a plastic bag into my mouth while watching this. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind. The intro was a bit much, like they were a conquering expansionistic empire. Also, didn't the Chavin have pottery already? If memory serves, they were more coastal, but the idea was on the continent and vaguely the right area, if not time. Yeah, the key thing is time there, because you're right. They're saying this because I mentioned at the start about this was an odd... Historians have kind of these ideas about the progression of technologies within a civilization, how, generally a society won't develop this before they develop that. And these guys were an anomaly for not having pottery when they were already building monumental architecture. Now, you're right, the Chavin and tons of later people did have pottery. What I was talking about, though, was the much earlier Caral Supe people. So, if I recall correctly, the timelines, Chavin, I think Caral Supe was at least 1,000. It was at least 1,000 years before the Chavin, and possibly even more than 2,000 years. So they had monumental architecture, no pottery that we know of. So that's more the oddity. But yes, other people did, and there's some. Well, I show some Moche pottery in one of my videos. There's some great artwork there. Okay, and this video. Oh yeah, okay. Absinthe. This was a fun video to make too. This one guy says, interesting video, but you forgot to mention that poor distillation technique can lead to have toxic fraction of alcohol in the beverage that can also lead to people going crazy. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that, at least. Yeah, you're probably right. That's a good point. The alcohol makers cut a lot of corners when they were making absinthe, was part of what comes up in this video. And one of those things, one of the problems with it could be very well that methanol possibly, or maybe other things as well. Now, I don't know effects of methanol that would necessarily make a person appear to be going crazy offhand. Maybe you can comment further on that. I know it can lead to things like blindness, but in any case, anything that contributes to it looking like a worse type of alcohol could have contributed to it just overall being seen as more dangerous than other alcohols. So yeah, that could add to its bad reputation for sure. Okay, this person says on the water hemlock one, absolutely love that you made this. As much as I dislike the way it's growing in all the ditches and taking over roadsides, I can confidently say it was used in Yurok, Karuk, and Wyatt warfare. I don't know if I said that correctly, but obsidian arrows, blades, and blow darts were dipped into the frightful concoction. Oof. Oof. Remind me not to get into a scrap with one of those guys. So, yeah, for context, that title there, most violently toxic plant in North America, that is not clickbait. That it's got cyclotoxin in there. It's got a lot of central nervous system effects that it does. It is a nasty way to go. You do not want to get poisoned by that stuff. Oof. Yeah. That is fearsome. Yikes. So this actually ended up being a lot longer than I anticipated. I rambled a bit. I'll stop this one here, but I'm going to continue it actually over on Patreon. You don't have to pay for it to see it there. There's a free tier, and so I'm going to make it available to free and paid members and YouTube members as well. I'll post it there. But again, thank you for all your support here, all 10,000 plus of you. Wow, that's a lot of people when you visualize it. Yeah, thanks for watching, for supporting me on Patreon, on YouTube memberships, for subscribing, helping me make videos. It all helps, and I really appreciate all of you. So signing off for now, but I'll see some of you over on Patreon, and otherwise for more weird and wonderful plants and maybe hotter peppers. I'll see you in the next one.